Hello, everybody, and welcome to another one of CPDSO's bi-weekly webinars. We are now doing these once every 2 weeks as opposed to once every week. So you are not getting the same quantity, but you are getting the same quality. Today, we are going to be looking at properly positioning your product in 2021. And we have Louise with us today to guide us through that process. So it's going to be a really good one. I hope you've all got the product in mind that you're looking to take the notes down about as we get guided through this topic by Louise. Today's session is going to be one where we ask for your cameras to actually be off, unfortunately. So if you can all just turn off your cameras, as this video will be being shared on social media, and we don't want to kind of put your faces all out there on the web unnecessarily. So if you could please just turn off those videos, that would be great. We are having the chat function on. So we're going to have this chat function on. So please do, any questions that you have, send them through to me. You will be able to send your questions directly through to me during the meat of this presentation. So as soon as Louise starts talking, please do anything that comes up, any questions that you have, please do just send them through to myself. And then I will then be asking Louise the questions in the Q&A session at the end. So if you just put a Q in front of those, it would be much appreciated, because then I'll just be able to kind of pick them up easier in the chat. And also, if there is any complaints, I don't usually get any complaints, but if there is any complaints, just as a formality, you can email them to me at daniel.still@cpdstandards.com, or you can put it in the chat and just put a C in front so I know that it's a complaint. Lastly, if there is any instances when we do open up the chat and we do want some engagement, please, no self-promoting, no sharing links and stuff like that. Just obviously engage as asked of Louise or myself. That would be much appreciated. Guys, I can still see a few cameras on. If you can, please do just turn them off for me. We are getting in visitors from all over the globe today, so I want to welcome you from wherever you are. Thank you for joining us. And we're going to just run through a couple of polls because I want to see the spread of people that we have on the call today. So I won't take 1 minute with this. So I just want to find out if you're a member or a non-member. So are you a member of the CPD Standards Office or a non-member? So there's a couple options there for you guys. I'll leave it up for a couple more seconds. 3, 2, 1. Thank you very much for participating in that one. And I've got one more poll for you. So I just want to know if you are a non-member, if you are interested in hearing a bit more about what the CPD Standards Office has to offer. So yes, can someone contact me? Or yes, can I receive some more information by email? Are your options. So I'll give you a couple more moments with that. So thank you. I think we have all the cameras off now. Thank you, everyone, for that. And so I'm going to stop that one now. Thank you for participating in that one. So now just a quick roundup of how we are going to run today. We still got people coming into the room, so welcome everyone. Again, if you're just joining us, welcome. We have Louise with us today, who is going to be, just coming up now, is going to be running through a 45-minute presentation around product positioning. There is going to be a Q&A at the end of the session, so please do send in questions while she is speaking. If you have a question that is relevant to one of the slides, please let me know, and then I can kind of interject while Louise is running through things. if it is a hot question that is relevant to one of the slides. If it is not, then obviously I'll save it for the Q&A. There will be recording of this session. Like I said, that's why we asked you to turn off the cameras. There's going to be a recording. It's going to be up on YouTube. And you're also going to get the slides for this session as well. That's going to be sent to your email inbox. So today we have Louise Cantrell from Tarigo Limited. Tarigo Limited was set up in 2003, and it is all around delivering consultancy and training to product managers and people that head the product development and the sale of the product. So it literally runs through the whole kind of life cycle of the product, from design to development to the selling of the product. But I won't talk too much about that because Louise is going to do it. So Louise, if you want to share your slides, would be great.
Yeah, just bear with me while I just get the right screen sharing going. Here we go. And maybe Daniel, can you just confirm that you can see my front slide there?
Yeah, looks perfect.
Brilliant. Well, hello everybody, and I'm very pleased to be with you today, kind of walking you through this session. I've got a great session for you. I hope it's a great session for you today. I've chosen the topic really of product thinking for non-product teams. So I'll get into this in a little while. Normally at Tarigo, we do product management training, but I thought I'd just give you a flavour of just some of the things that I think are really important and pertinent to us, kind of wherever you are within the organisation. So whether you're in finance or whether you're in HR. My name, like Daniel kind of said, is Louise Cantrell, and I'm a consultant trainer for Tarigo. I've worked within kind of product for a number of kind of years now, largely in the space of kind of customer engagement, customer data, loyalty programs, held various kind of different roles, from global product director, solutioning director, kind of design and solutioning roles. So should we get going? I'm going to talk you through kind of first our agenda. Let's go. So our agenda today, I'm really going to cover off what Tarigo, what we do, and you know why we're kind of perfectly positioned to support within kind of product management training. I'm then going to talk you through just what is product thinking and what is that agile mindset. Then what are some of the product thinking fundamentals that we can use regardless as to where we are in the organisation. And I've got 5 key things that I want to talk to you about. One is really that our strategy is really built on research and insight. The second one is all about this strong kind of vision and really gives us direction. The third one is all about new ideas are really our heartbeat within product. And then one of my favorite ones is that we wallow. There's this kind of verb to wallow. We wallow in customer pain. We really deeply understand customer pain. And the last one really kind of puts it all together, which is just really that we boss this kind of customer value. And then at the end, I've just got some ideas around how you might want to give this a go. So we're really passionate at Tarigo about supporting organisations to embed our training. So not only do we teach it or we learn it, and we really try to help organisations to live what they are doing from a product perspective and really apply that learning to their own organisations. So why Tarigo? So 3 kind of main things here about why Tarigo. The first thing is our experience. So all of our consultants have over 20 years of experience in the industry, and we really love sharing both our knowledge and our network with the organisations we work with and the partnerships we create. The second thing is that we have a really flexible approach. So there really isn't one size that fits all, and we really enjoy flexing with our customers to deliver training programs that specifically meet their needs. And then we love trailblazing. So just an area we're working in at the moment is just trying to forge a apprenticeship around product management, and we're really happy to be working with a number of our customers around creating that. The third thing is that our consulting, we have a very consulting approach, which means that we don't stop just at the training or at the coaching, but we really go beyond the training. We often find that kind of training initiates kind of something around transformation, and we really work with organizations to help them kind of walk every step that way and really embed that full program or product excellence, as we often kind of call it. Talked about training. Training is really kind of, I guess, our heritage. We are leaders in online and live interactive product management training. We have a number of training initiatives that run really from product boot camp, and those can be for just product teams, or they can be actually equally for, quite often we find working with organizations, they want to involve teams that product teams work really closely with, like engineering functions, design functions, some of the sales functions. So we often kind of create programs as well with the wider aspects of the product teams. And boot camps are all about kind of building those core product skills, but we equally go through to quite targeted, those might be targeted leadership programs, or they might be targeted product programs. So we assess the needs of an organization, and we'll tailor training and coaching initiatives to target really specific areas of need. And all of our training programs are independently certified. They're certified kind of through CPD, and yeah, we follow this kind of methodology of learn it and live it. That's really important to us to support the embedding of our training. We've got these really three flexible options of support. We either do standardized kind of training programs, or we do tailored training programs, and then we also kind of have this kind of full package, which is where we support almost an enablement program within an organization and support the transformation of a product organization, and that can be through a number of initiatives. That could be embedding the kind of strategy process into the product process and working with the wider organization. It could be building a SharePoint platform and enabling all of the templates, lots of kind of external links. It might be working on roles and races to standardize that across an organization, or it might be really targeted initiatives to think about how we could support an organization working with their customers. We did a number of things around how can we support the organization to understand more about their customers with kind of live whiteboarding and interactive sessions, and supporting those through companies with organizations and also their own customers as well. So this is where we kind of now let's get into kind of some of the things that I wanted to really kind of speak to you about today, because not only did I want to talk to you, set the scene really in terms of what we do at Tarigo, but I wanted also to kind of, bring something kind of valuable to this organization, to this network that we have kind of going today, to think about kind of how product thinking and the agile mindset can really support anybody in the organization. It doesn't matter where you are in the organization, you can benefit, I believe, from some of the product thinking and some of the agile mindset. And it's this idea really that product teams really have to work to understand how our products and our services can be continuously improved and to solve customer pain. And we work in a way that is very agile to create customer value as quickly as we possibly can. The essential elements of agile kind of for me, and when I talk about agile, I'm not really talking about any specific methodology, I'm talking about an agile mindset. But this agile kind of mindset for me principally kind of comprises of this obsession with kind of delivering customer value, and being, almost working in short cycles, focused on really delivering value for the customers and the personas that we need to deliver. It's about kind of reducing the agile kind of ideas around reducing some of that bureaucracy, but creating collaboration and ways of really working together to kind of really deliver and increase the value to the customers. And I think this agile kind of mindset it comes from two places. I guess it kind of comes from almost this what I would describe as operational agility, kind of making the existing kind of business better. So whatever products or services you have, making them, work better, kind of reducing friction in the processes, or in the ways that kind of customers interact, and really improving what you have. But it's also this kind of strategic agility, which is generating new products or new ideas and really kind of bringing in new customers. Now, there's undoubtedly a lot of kind of methodologies out there for agile. I'm not necessarily talking about those. I'm talking about this mindset of kind of collaboration and delivering kind of customer value. So I would say that, regardless as to where you are in the organization, that question there around, do you make a product or a service? I'd say that kind of most of us make a product or deliver a service, and actually kind of what we have within kind of product thinking, we can all benefit from understanding our customers and creating value from them. And this agile kind of mindset and this product kind of thinking, it can be a way of kind of really helping us to do that. And then in product, kind of, I guess, we really just, we're just obsessing. We're obsessing really about delivering this customer value by understanding customer pain. And you probably hear me kind of talk about customer pain quite a lot as we kind of go through this session today. But we're also kind of breaking it down. By understanding that pain, we then break it down and we work in short cycles to deliver the best value for our primary customers, to address their pain as quickly as we possibly can. And really kind of always remembering that kind of just agile is this mindset. It's not necessarily a methodology. Now, within Tarigo, we follow, we've got this structure, we call it the 5D product management framework. And this is kind of really, it's the heart of kind of everything that we kind of train and that we teach and that we embed. And it follows this kind of like this 5D framework, if you like. That direct kind of piece is really at the heart of it. It's around how do we kind of make strategy kind of like at our core? How do we get really clear about the direction that we're kind of going in? And then you start to kind of work through how do we kind of discover the customer's needs? How do we continuously assess what the market wants, what the customer kind of needs, and how do we quickly find ways of delivering against those opportunities? The third thing is all about kind of defining, so you can kind of see that you're going on this journey kind of now. For the ones that kind of make it through, that look like really good opportunities for us, we really start to define them now, and to work out whether this is commercially going to be fit through the business case, or delivering through user stories that go into development in the software kind of development world. And then the fourth one is all about kind of delivering. This is where we take it to market, with really good kind of momentum. And then the fifth one is all about, generally kind of products go through this life cycle of we continually kind of deliver new releases. So we continue to kind of drive and continuously improve as we go forward. I'm not going to, our training kind of like dwells on this a lot to kind of almost provide this kind of this framework that enables us to move through this kind of product life cycle, to really evolve new ideas, solve customer problems, and create value. What I'm going to kind of talk us through next is really just, I guess, just like a little teaser of some of those kind of things. So this is what I'm kind of calling my product thinking fundamentals. And these, like I say, that they're applicable to wherever you are within the organization. And they're really these 5 things. Great strategy built on great research. Strong vision is going to give us that direction. New ideas are going to be our heartbeat. And then we're going to wallow in customer pain, and we're going to boss that customer value. Now I'm going to take you on a journey, over the next kind of 20 minutes or so, where I'm just going to kind of tease out some of those areas, and hopefully give you a reason to give some of those things a go and apply them to your business kind of wherever you are in the organization. So this first one, this great strategy is built on great research. We always start with understanding our customers, understanding our competition, understanding our markets. And it's this idea that really kind of data is everywhere. And as product teams, we need to understand kind of many things. And it's one of those things that there are multiple sources of data that we go to in order to kind of comprise this kind of holistic kind of understanding of our competition, our customers, and our markets. But it's one of these things, though, that is, whenever I talk about kind of customer research, it's not kind of like an exercise that we lock ourselves away and we kind of, we do, and then we come up with this great document. It's one of those things that is never one and done. The great and the best product teams for me are out there almost all the time, kind of with their receptors kind of on, looking to understand more on a regular basis, whether it's daily or whether it's setting out time in the calendar, a couple of hours a week, to understand more about markets and customers. And the really great teams, I think, kind of almost ask themselves kind of like every week, what have I learned? What have I learned this week about my customers, my competition, my markets, or my products? And I would say it as a product team, it's okay if one week goes by and you haven't really learned anything, but almost if 2 or 3 weeks are going by and you're asking yourself that question, you haven't really learned anything. I think you need to kind of work harder to almost diarize some time where we look at kind of like all of these are kind of generally desk-bound exercises. Start with doing those desk-bound exercises to understand more about your competition, because this understanding will give us kind of like this great kind of direction in terms of kind of where we're going. The other thing I'd say is kind of like, that desk-bound research, a lot of those examples there were kind of desk-bound stuff, information that is out there in the form of wherever your industry, the Gartner, Forrester, it might be, many of those things, analyst kind of reports. Those are great sources of information, particularly with organizations, competitors kind of floated. What I would say is that we also need to validate our research with customers. And it's this idea that if you think about kind of like almost a target, you've got desk-bound kind of research, which is out here, but we want to get as close as we possibly can to reach our customers and understand more about our customers. So we think about kind of how close we can get to customers. One really great example, I think, of this is maybe doing something like client shadowing, just this ability to, I've had great opportunities in my career to spend some time. I may have mentioned I worked for an organisation. If you're in the UK, you'll know them as Nectar, a loyalty card programme. We used to do this fantastic thing, which was just, one of the big partners in that programme was Sainsbury's, the retailer at Sainsbury's, and we used to spend time in our Sainsbury's uniform on the shop floor and spending time understanding the perspective both from the end kind of customer, there's people who shopped at Sainsbury's and how they felt about the loyalty programme, but also understanding the colleagues and the people who worked at Sainsbury's in the context of this loyalty programme, in the context of their organisation. So truly, the closer you can get to your customers' kind of needs and wants, the better. I've also worked with organisations, where we've wanted to understand about a boiler company, and they wanted to understand about the parts and labourers and the way that the engineers who went out there, repairing kind of boilers, how they worked. We put kind of camcorders on those engineers and then played back some of the information. It was really insightful in terms of understanding. We kind of sat there kind of going, it doesn't work like that. Don't do that. You get lots of, the closer you can get to your customer, the more kind of insightful you can get that will validate some of your research. It's just an example, I guess, of applying all of that information. Because if you're out there, you're doing your research, whether it's desk-bound, you're understanding your competitors, you're understanding what creates the customer value, what drives that kind of use and adoption. That's kind of like, it's gathering a lot of data. We're often doing things around this kind of space, around what I call SWOT analysis. So that strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats analysis. What I'm showing kind of here is an example of what we use within products. It's something called a value curve canvas. And this is a really great tool to bring out a lot of data and show it on one slide effectively. I'll talk you through the example in a minute that we worked with Premier in on this, but this is kind of like what you do is you are plotting the factors that drive the use and adoption of your product on your services. And you'll see that kind of indicated along that kind of that bottom kind of like axes. And so here I've kind of drawn out price, ratings, location, bed comfort, and points. And what you then kind of start to do is you start to plot yourself and score yourself around those things. So you'd be asking yourself, on a scale of kind of between 1 and 10, like how well are we doing on ratings? Do we have good ratings? And well, first of all, you're asking kind of, is ratings kind of ranked as kind of number 1 or 2? Where is it on that axis? But then you're asking kind of, how did we score against that? So you start to kind of plot your own kind of line on that. Then you also kind of start to ask, well, how well are my competitors kind of faring against that? And you can then also, you can see that kind of grey line there down the middle that kind of goes from high, if you like, to low. That's really the ideal curve that we're looking for. And we use value curves really to kind of draw out insight around how we're performing, how we're kind of scoring against the things that drive the use and adoption of our products and our services. Now, hygiene factors is there because what we don't want to do is add in hygiene factors. So in this example, if we're looking at this Premier Inn example, we might not be, whether the hotel has a roof, we might not be kind of plotting those types of things. If you're looking at cars, I don't know, it might be, you're not kind of plotting kind of, how good are your wheels, because that's just a hygiene factor in these types of things. But you can see how you can start to draw insight from this. Now, this Premier Inn example, you can see here that example there is done for a hotel organization. So you can see those factors that might drive adoption are exactly those things: price, ratings, the location of your hotel, the bed comfort, and whether you're, if you're a points junkie, whether or not that organization has points or not. What you can kind of see here and draw out then is just how well you're performing against that. Now, what's kind of interesting in this one is you can see that green line there is actually kind of saying, do you know what, bed comfort is scoring really highly, but actually that doesn't necessarily kind of drive the use and adoption kind of on my curve. You can see how now you might want to kind of look at that and kind of say, you've got two choices at this point. Either you can increase the promotion of that thing, that bed comfort, and you can try and get the market to value that more and therefore kind of push it kind of higher up. Or you can decide, do you know what, that's not highly valued by my particular market, so I could decrease the spend that I spend on beds. Now, in this example, Premier Inn, Lenny Henry is there because he drove a kind of fairly high profile kind of campaign to actually do exactly that, to kind of move the market to value kind of bed comfort within this value hotel chain of Premier Inn. So I hope that's kind of given you an example. And I guess if you're in HR and you're in finance, maybe it's less important. You may kind of consider you don't necessarily kind of have competitors, and that might not be important, but you can see kind of like almost kind of thinking about, am I really kind of placing the effort around some of those factors that people really value in my service? And I'd also say you might also kind of want to use a benchmark. Sometimes maybe you strive to kind of be as good as somebody else within this area. You might want to kind of benchmark. They're not necessarily competitive, but you might want to benchmark another organization to kind of consider where you are in that relative kind of prioritization against your kind of benchmark organization. Now I'm going to kind of, so if we've kind of thought about kind of like, that research kind of and understanding our customers, understanding our markets, when we've understood our relative kind of position, we need to kind of start to understand, where we really want to go. And it's this idea that this strong vision, really can give us direction within product. And I'm going to kind of say here, we all know the value kind of like of creating a vision. I probably don't need to stand up and tell you about that. But I guess the challenge here, I think, is that we get stuck in this kind of whirlwind of kind of this daily tactical work that really gets in the way. And I certainly I know this will be true of many kind of functions within organizations, but really feel within kind of product, this is a real challenge. Often in product organization, for product roles, there's a really kind of broad spectrum of dealing with day-to-day kind of tactical and support queries, but also trying to kind of set the vision for your product kind of like in the next 3 years. And so I'm going to kind of drive a little bit kind of like hard about explaining kind of why it's so important to look at the vision, and why it's really important to scope out that vision kind of with your team for your product and your services. And it's this idea that kind of that trends drive this constant change within a market. And I'd like to say that some trends are global and some trends are local and some are market specific. But the fundamental message is really that if you miss that trend, then you're in danger of your service or your product becoming irrelevant. And I'm using this example kind of like here of the internet. I can't see your camera, so I can't see what age or generation you're of. But if you're my kind of like generation, this example of the internet, when it first came about, I don't think any of us would have been able to envisage, the scale of change that was going to really drive within our organisation. So, Internet of Things, gig economy, they've all been built, if you like, off the back of kind of like, the internet. It's even driving our ability to work from home, to still socialize, and in the middle of a pandemic. None of us kind of really, when it first came out, could have predicted the scale of change that was really going to drive. Now, some organizations can, if you like, can ride the crest of that wave kind of very, very well. So good example here is Amazon and Google. Like, undoubtedly they're at the crest of the wave. They are investing all the time in new ideas. They're really kind of managing to kind of understand kind of where these trends are going and move in the same direction. Blockbuster is in the water there, kind of almost kind of being drowned and overwhelmed. And that's really the message kind of there is, for Blockbuster, the market didn't change, right? Like, so look at how big Netflix is today. Like, Blockbuster's market didn't go away, right? It's just that consumers wanted to consume their products, their services in a very different way as a consequence of the high kind of internet speeds and the delivery, across the internet of films. But it definitely didn't go away. In fact, in some ways, the market kind of got even bigger, because just look at the size of Netflix today. So you've got to make sure that we are kind of really understanding kind of where these trends are coming from, and we're moving in that direction. Now, one technique that we use within product, and one thing that we teach within Tarigo, is having kind of like a one-page vision canvas. It's a surprisingly simple tool for breaking down our vision really into one page, and it really helps to set the direction for our products, our services, and our team. And in a simple way, we kind of have that core kind of strategy across the top, and that's really what we want to deliver from a customer value perspective over the next 3 years. We then start to break it down into themes, and below that you'd kind of have a more descriptive, and then you'd really work out kind of from a deliverable kind of perspective what you're going to deliver in quarters. And it maybe, I've seen many teams kind of do this, and sometimes it gets harder. Some teams move much faster, some have shorter kind of planning horizons, and for some it gets quite difficult to kind of plan that out for kind of what we're going to be doing in kind of 2020 or 2023. But see where you can get with this, because it really does kind of set our direction. If you can, you may be kind of working 3 years ahead is too hard to work in quarters, but try and work in halves, or set the direction of where you're going. It really does help to set that direction. So use the vision canvas. So if we've kind of, we've thought about our research, we've understood our customers, understood our markets a little bit more, we've got this vision of where we're going. This next idea and where I'm going with this is that really kind of like ideas are really our heartbeat. They're the lifeblood really of product teams. Now, ideas can come from anywhere. So my first kind of thing is that it's not always kind of product teams who need to come up with the ideas, but you need to have a process of going through ideas, validating ideas, and assessing whether those ideas are good, or rejecting kind of those ideas. Now, organizations like Google, I think they kind of reject around about kind of 90% of their ideas. So there's got to be a lot of ideas kind of coming through. We also, what I like to kind of think about ideas is sometimes it's kind of quite hard, right? So we have to kind of have fresh ideas, but we also kind of in some ways have to break away from our established kind of pattern of thought and start to see new paths ahead. And product teams and design teams use this concept of design thinking as a methodology to really start to understand ideas. And it's sometimes kind of called that beginner's kind of mindset, having that childlike mentality to new ideas and new things. Now, there are 6 stages of design thinking. I'm not going to talk about it here, but I'm going to kind of show you just one technique that I'd like you to think about that is part of design thinking, and that's this concept of how might we, and it really works really well. If you look at that kind of this is an infinity symbol, because design thinking, you can kind of ebb and flow from one to the next, but it's this idea that you empathize with the customer, you understand the customer, you start to kind of define it, you then start to kind of you can put prioritize in there, that's an optional step. I quite like to use that because I think often in kind of product we end up with more ideas than we kind of know what to do with, or more problems than we know what to do with. So prioritizing those problem statements is really useful. But this technique I'm going to show you next really comes into this ideate kind of space, whereby we can think about a technique called how might we, about how we might ideate and kind of come up with more fabulous ideas. So let me just introduce you kind of to that. This how might we, or this HMW, it's a great framework to give us kind of fresh thinking and that beginner's kind of mindset, kind of almost a little bit slightly hippie-ish in a way. So it's so if you essentially have a problem statement, you can use this as a technique to kind of come up with ideas that might combat that problem statement. I'm going to give you an example kind of here. So so back in the day, I used to travel a lot, like many of us. Of course, I'm sure we'd all be giving our right arm probably right now to kind of be back in that, that ability to kind of travel and go on holiday. But if I think about my own kind of life, so I've got a team. And I've also got a 5-year-old boy. So one of my problem statements back in the day when we travelled would have been, how might Louise get one teenager and one small child through the airport effectively? And we could, if that was my problem statement, we could use this as a framework, as a way to kind of think about good ideas to kind of solve that problem statement. So a good example here is amplify the good. So my kids, like many kids, I'm sure, like junk food, and they like, maybe an idea of kind of visiting that fast food outlet, is going to kind of, support that idea of kind of getting through the airport kind of more effectively. Or you might want to look at removing the bad. So my younger kid kind of gets very anxious kind of going through security. So could I spend some time explaining what will happen and maybe making a game of it? Or you could explore the opposite. I might think about, how might we make the wait kind of more exciting, and just a general kind of part of the trip. You might want to what's another one? Kind of identify unexpected kind of resources. So you might want to think about how you could leverage fellow passengers to share the load? I don't know, can I find ways that the kids could put on a show to entertain kind of people also waiting in the airport, and that might ease the burden of it. So you can see how this is just a methodology of kind of just thinking kind of more broadly about problem statements that we have. So yeah, my guide is, what can we borrow from design thinking to kind of come up with more ideas, because ideas are really what keeps us kind of moving forward and keeps us striving to improve some of the products and services that we deliver in our day jobs. This fourth one, and I'm just going to, this is one of my favorites really. So really a pain point is really the root problem that a customer has. And I want to make this point that in B2B product management, we essentially, people buy our products and services because our products and services solve a problem. They solve a point of pain. Now, that's slightly different to the consumer market. The consumer market, sometimes there is an emotional kind of response to why we purchase a product. So think about the tagline of L'Oreal, kind of personal care products. L'Oreal's tagline is because you're worth it. In the B2B space, people don't buy our products and services because I don't know, we're having a bad hair day and we want to feel better about ourselves. So they buy our products and services because it really does, it solves a pain point. And it's this idea that solutions are a response to the pain point. And quite often in product, people, and outside of product, you get it from sales teams, people are very quick to solution, and very quick to kind of find the solution. So a really good example kind of here is just this example here. I need a quarter kind of drill bit. That's the solution. It's not the pain point. The pain point in this instance is I need to hang a picture. We need to kind of really make sure that we spend time with our customers, understanding and noodling over their pain, because we don't want a solution kind of too quickly. We want to make sure that we really understand this kind of pain, and that really kind of precedes this identifying the solution. Now, one of the kind of techniques that we use to do that is something called the empathy map. Now, in product, we create personas, and these are, we put a kind of personal face to we cluster and group together kind of like our customers. And we do that, we create this kind of persona to understand the people that use our products and our services better. It helps us connect and understand the customers. And it also, for many of us who work in kind of software development, this bringing to life kind of personas really works to kind of help engineers who engineer and kind of build the products understand who they are building these products and services kind of for. So we use them a lot within product management. We also kind of use something called empathy maps. And these are really that we use them as a kind of tool to interview real live customers, live people who look like our personas. So this is an example kind of here of, in this instance, it's Gillian Walker. She's an expense manager at a large corporate. And we essentially use the empathy map to interview her. And that, through doing that, we would uncover almost their wants, their needs, how they think and how they feel, and any pain that they kind of have. We don't solution at this stage, we just really are wallowing in their customer pain. And just to give you kind of like an example to draw this to life a little bit more, how this kind of might work is, if I was to interview Gillian, I might uncover that she's struggling with her particular kind of workload. She's struggling because she's got some employees who are furloughed, that she's got a problem with kind of data quality in terms of how she needs to kind of manage all of the expenses. She may be feeling overwhelmed as a consequence of that. She doesn't know how she's going to justify to her line managers around kind of bringing somebody back off furlough. she might equally be, be thinking about how she can improve the data quality of the expenses that she's processing, or whether there's any appetite within the business to look at kind of different tools and products to improve that. You can uncover a number of kind of different things. And I think it's just this ability to spend some time understanding that pain to see whether you can come up with good ideas in terms of solving those specific pains. Because remember, nobody kind of buys our B2B products just because it looks like a good idea. Like, it always has to solve a customer problem and a customer pain. I guess the other thing is to remember here as well is, making sure that that's an old boss used to talk about 3 a.m. Problems. Make sure it's one of those kind of problems. It's one of those pains that is really, keeping you awake, or keeping your customer awake at 3 a.m. in the morning. The final kind of part that I kind of have for you today is just this. I guess it all comes together, it all comes crashing kind of like together here around, we are really there within kind of product and product management to make sure that we really kind of get a handle on customer value, that we can drive commercial value through the organization by deeply understanding kind of what's going to add value to our customers' lives. We increase this kind of commercial value through constantly looking at increasing this value and gain, and we gain that kind of 1% at a time. What I like to kind of say here, and a lot of my training is, you have to be really relentless in your kind of search to improve and optimize. And I love this concept of marginal gain. And I guess my image of that cyclist is there because marginal gain was really kind of made very famous by British track cycling, essentially. So famously kind of Brailsford, or I think he's now kind of Sir Brailsford, and was looking at everything kind of for British track cycling team from, I guess he was ahead of his time, right? But he had people come into the team, surgeons come into the team and talk to the team about hand washing, hygiene, because his idea was that we could reduce the amount of time that kind of people get sick with common colds if we train the team to just religiously wash their hands much better. But he also kind of did things like, the team kind of famously kind of traveled around the country and participating in events, and they took their pillows with them. This idea that they would sleep better if they had their normal pillow with them. But also where the cycles were fixed on the roads, they painted the kind of the backs of the kind of the trucks that they were repaired in kind of like high gloss white paint to stop dust particles getting into those repairs. It's this idea that and often it's applied a lot to athletics and sporting kind of like events, because as we think about sporting events and things like that, they're often kind of marginally won, right? So really small things, people win by percentages of kind of seconds, but it's this idea that you can find that kind of 1% as part of your team mantra, and small improvements over a large amount of time, and will go on to kind of make the big difference. Kind of looking for kind of customer value. It often doesn't kind of come from those big ideas, but it's just how can you become marginally better, kind of 1% of a time. Perhaps a really good analogy of this as well within the B2B kind of product world is Apple is amazing at this. Like, they are often kind of just tweaking. They're not, you could do a comparison, right? Think about at that point where kind of BlackBerry and Apple were competing, and I think kind of the iPhone kind of outsold kind of like the BlackBerry kind of by 10 times more. They weren't necessarily kind of like, 10 times better. They were marginally kind of better, and they were really good at kind of defining that customer value and what customers really valued in their products. I mean, they weren't going after kind of security. It was that time when they were going after kind of just the look and the feel of the phone, the apps. They weren't going after encrypted messages or security. If you remember kind of many years ago, do you know what I mean? They were really just going after those high net worth personas kind of who really valued the gaming and the apps kind of within their phones, and weren't going after that kind of B2B, you know, business kind of market with the encrypted and the security. You know, some of that has come later, but they are just remarkable at kind of taking almost that 1% mentality. Look at how they package some of their products. You know, it's a really good example of how they just almost tweaked or improved that packaging to kind of drive incremental customer value and sales. So I said at the beginning that we were really passionate about embedding our training, and it's why we don't just stop at training deliver, but we also work with organisations to embed our product lifecycle framework or align an organisational strategy process and governance process. But we also, through our training as well, we spend a lot of time to, in fact, all of our training programs at the moment have this, they're broken down into kind of more bite size, just in line with delivering over the internet, online. They're broken down now into sort of more bite-sized chunks, and they have this element of what we call missions, which are exercises in which you're able to apply what you learn to your organization. So I guess my challenge for you today is, and we will be sharing these slides with you, I know Daniel's going to kind of give us some more information in terms of that at the end of the session, but I just challenge you to kind of maybe, if you like what we're talking about here, just give some of them a go. You know, think about, when I talked about great strategies built on great research, I talked about kind of value curve canvases, you know, give that a go, and you're welcome to kind of use some of the templates in the PowerPoint presentation that we give to you. Or maybe what's resonating is just having a clearer kind of vision. Use that kind of one-page vision canvas. It really, that's one of the kind of tools that we get really great feedback on, whereby we see kind of teams being able to collaborate and talk about interdependencies from having this clear vision. Or maybe you want to think about kind of new ideas, get new ideas coming through, borrow from some of that design thinking and think about the how might we, or how might Louise get her children through the airport. Or it might be, you know, maybe spending more time with your customers, whoever they are. You know, we all have internal customers, whether you're in finance and whether you're in HR. Think about how you could spend some time with maybe your major kind of customer group and understand them a little bit more. And the last one is, how can we apply marginal gain as our mantra, and think about what we do every day. I guess if you pick up one of these things and you do give one of these things a go, then you are undoubtedly kind of applying marginal gain. So you're well on your way. The last point is, so yeah, I'm Louise Cantrell. If you like what we have to say and you need to build product excellence into your teams, then please do get in touch. We'll be providing you additional kind of information at the end of this session as well about how you get in touch. But there we go. You'll find us on LinkedIn. And yeah, thank you very much for engaging with me today and giving me this opportunity to talk about something that I'm incredibly passionate about, product thinking and agile thinking. I think we've got some time for questions. Is that right now, Daniel?
Yeah, we definitely do have a bit more time for questions. Thank you so much, Louise, for that. I'm just going to go ahead and share my screen back with you all. So it is time for questions, so please do start to send through any questions that you do have into the chat box. I'm just going to now put something in the chat box just to get things started. It's just a recap, or a link, should I say, to the session that we ran last week. So if anyone's interested in checking out the session we ran last week, which was all about presenting online and the capabilities of Zoom webinars, please feel free to check that out. It's in the chat now for you. Also, feel free to go and check that out. And also, I'm going to put in the chat a link. Sorry, a link to the. Sorry, my chat's just disappeared. There you go. A link to our future webinars as well. So those are also in the chat. So we have. Well, I have a couple of questions anyway that I wrote down through the course of that I would like to pose while everyone else is kind of getting their questions together. So the first one was, how do you establish clarifying whether you need to change the positioning of the product or the product itself? Is there a way of kind of establishing that?
So your question is, how do we clarify whether we need to change the positioning of the product or whether we need to change the product itself? I would say it kind of starts at the heart of kind of like really understanding your personas and your customers. So it's that point of kind of like understanding the pain, kind of, you know, much more, and then you can kind of, if you understand the kind of pain, you'll know kind of whether your product is addressing those kind of major pain points or not, and whether it's or whether it could be something of positioning. I think so. Just some hints on kind of like what might drive us to kind of think we've got a positioning issue. So one really good technique that I would use around understanding your positioning a bit more is win-loss analysis. So yeah, if you don't do win-loss analysis, I'd really recommend that you do it. And by that, I don't mean just, you know, the information that you get back through Salesforce as to, you know, why, you know, kind of tick box or drop box in terms of kind of why you might have lost an opportunity. But if you can, and I realize in some organizations this is often done by the sales team, but if you can and you're able to conduct some of that win-loss analysis yourself to get more qualitative data around that, you can sometimes kind of hear people, you know, for example, if they say, they'll say something like around a feature that you didn't have or something, and you think, hang on, I know we had that just might be a positioning kind of thing. You haven't really positioned that particular feature or communicated well enough to the sales team and that you have that particular feature, or how important it is around positioning. And so that's some tips on positioning. And then around the kind of product thing, product change is more around understanding your personas, making sure that what you're still delivering is still delivering to the customer kind of problems and pain points. I hope that answers your question, Daniel.
Yeah, pretty much. So another question that did come up for myself was that I just wanted to kind of find, because a lot of companies now are kind of starting to pivot, because the world is becoming smaller. It's like more of a global, it's becoming like more of a global community in a sense, to benefit or detriment. And that is, so what I wanted to know is, why is, or how, when should you consider moving from like a customer pain to like a global problem? So like integrating like a global kind of theme or something that's kind of helping the global cause, because you see a lot of companies now kind of posturing in that.
Oh, sorry, I interrupted because you just broke up a little bit. But let me see if I've got your question right. So it's around when do we kind of go global? When do we understand that kind of like it's a more localized kind of customer problem or pain, or more of a global issue? Is that right, Daniel?
Yeah, or just kind of appendage a global kind of problem onto the products as well.
So almost from the, if we think about the kind of mega trends and how to apply that kind of like to our individual products, I think I've got two answers from you. So first of all, we need to really understand what our market is. So we need to make sure that we have been really clear about which particular kind of markets or personas or segments of the market that we're going to address. If we do that and we get really clear on it, it makes it really easy to deliver customer value kind of really quickly. So if you get really clear that you are, you know, delivering. So I'll give you an example. Say if I'm kind of building something and I decide that I'm going after, you know, North American racetrack, right? That's going to be my market. It's then really easy to understand what the kind of problems are for that particular market or that segment, and really deliver kind of value and build a product that's specific to that early on. You can then start to kind of go after kind of bigger markets or see markets or extensions of that kind of have similar problems. Or you can think about what your next kind of market type might be and think about building out features around that. Going after a really big market share you need to make sure you have a market segment that you're going after that has scale. But sometimes it's not about kind of a really really big scale. Sometimes that drives you into kind of problems because you don't have commonality, you don't have same pain across those kind of different markets. The way that you reach those markets might be different. So you need to get really clear about what you're going after in order to build something we call minimal viable products, or MVP. The other kind of question I think you were talking about there as well was kind of applying this. How do you kind of like, globalization is here. So how do we think about something is happening or changing in the market? How do we apply it to the problem?
Like the bigger problems like global warming and other things like that. How do you is there a way to appendage those kind of problems, those larger problems that have mass appeal, into products?
Yeah, so that's what we would call a mega trend. And it's this piece around kind of, we need to set aside time to do some of that strategizing around those mega trends. So global warming, or increasing kind of aging population, those are all mega trends that we need to be aware of. So we need to understand those. We need to see how that might relate to our product. And then I would do something called a mega trend kind of map. So if you think about kind of what your end result needs to be, how do you need to kind of almost drive back to what stages does your product need to go through, or your services need to go through, in order to evolve to what you think that end position is going to be. Now the challenge with that, I think, is that it's really hard. It's the kind of like this cone of uncertainty. It's really hard to kind of predict, like I was talking about the internet. It's really hard to predict where some of those things might end up and what the influence is going to be on our product. But we kind of take baby steps, if you like. We think about what the end result might be, and we think about the steps that we might take and the pivot points that we need to put in place along that way to check to see whether that is significantly changing and going in a different direction, or whether it's still headed in that direction. So that's where we kind of build what we call a mega trend plan, or a mega trend bridge. We think about what the end result needs to look like for our product, and we build in steps along the way and check it as we go.
And then we've got a question in from Karen, who asks, do you evaluate ideas and make the decision? Oh, sorry, how do you evaluate ideas and make the decision to prototype?
So we use something called an innovation canvas. I'm happy to share it with this group at the end. It's a really kind of simple canvas. We ask 10 questions. Essentially, we run through those 10 questions. It's on kind of one slide. And we're asking kind of questions in there like, what's the idea, what's the problem, who does it solve the problem for, what does it look like in the future, what's our differentiator, what are the risks associated with that, what do our competitors do. From that one page, you generally kind of come out with a yes, this is going to work, and it needs, you'll then maybe consider kind of some of the risks, and it will progress further into more of a defining kind of phase, or maybe even kind of go into prototypes. Prototypes, I think, can take a number of kind of things. You might want to assess the idea kind of really early on, just run the idea kind of past a number of among a number of customers, or you might want to progress to develop it a little bit more. You can use a range of techniques, but you'd run it kind of through this ideas assessment or this innovation canvas and realize whether it was a yes, proceed to next stage, or stop, doesn't need to go any further. But that, I think, gives us a structure that we can go back as well to idea initiators as well. Gives us a structure to kind of fall back on in terms of saying, look, this isn't going to proceed because of X, Y, and Z, and some of the answers that you've drawn through from those questions that you've answered.
Yeah, just to talk on next week, we're going to be sending out the email, and it's going to have the video, the YouTube link to this video that you can all obviously go back and watch and rewatch as many times as you like. And it's also going to be sharing the slides with you and any other resources that Louise is willing to share with us. And also there's going to be contact information to get in contact with Louise as well. So please do look out for that email. It's going to be coming to you next week. Is there any more questions for us? Please, sorry, Karen asks again. Okay, please may we have the Innovate Canvas as well. I think Louise has already said, yeah, she said yes to that. So that's going to be coming to you as well in that email. So watch out for that, Karen, and the rest of you also. Is there any other questions that we have for Louise? Any other questions? Louise, if not, do you have any kind of final remarks that you'd want to share with people around the topic?
No, apart from just encourage you to give it a go. And if you try any of those things that I've kind of suggested, my offer is, if you want me to kind of review any of them or have a chat about it, just please do get in touch. I'm very passionate about kind of what we do and always willing to give back to the community and help in any way we can. Thank you very much.
Fantastic, fantastic. Thank you all for joining us today. Remember, I did share those links, so you can obviously head over to our website now, check out the future webinars, see what's on, and register today for future webinars. We've got a few on there. And also, like I said, that email is going to be coming out to you with all of the goodies, the video link, the slides, and those extra bits that Louise is going to be sending over as well. So thank you for joining. Look out for the email, and we will see you again in a couple of weeks for another webinar. So see you soon. Have a great day and be safe. Bye-bye, everyone.
Thank you.